Let's be honest, people can be exhausting. And I don't mean that in a grumpy old man way. I mean it in a real human way. You ever walk into a room full of people and instead of feeling energized, you feel drained? Like physically and emotionally? I've been there. In fact, I've spent most of my life trying to make people happy. Family, friends, coworkers, strangers, you name it. I thought it was the right thing to do. After all, isn't that what we're taught? Be kind, be polite, be there for others. But what no one tells you is how much of yourself you lose along the way. I didn't realize this until much later in life. I'm 75 now, and I can tell you one thing for sure. I avoid people, and it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. Now, before you think I'm some bitter recluse, hear me out. I still love people. I love deep conversations, laughter, and those rare moments of connection that make life beautiful. But I no longer waste my energy on people who don't deserve it. And trust me, it took me decades to learn this. Let me tell you about a moment that changed everything for me. It was my 60th birthday. My family threw a big party, cakes, balloons, the works. I should have been happy, right? But as I looked around the room, I realized something strange. Half the people there barely knew me. The other half had hurt me in ways they didn't even remember. Yet there they were, smiling, eating, celebrating. Me. And all I could think was, why am I doing this? Why am I surrounding myself with people who drain me? It was a turning point. That night, after the party, I sat alone in my living room, replaying moments in my life when I'd bent over backward for people who wouldn't have done the same for me. People who took and took, leaving me with nothing. Have you ever felt that way? Like you're giving so much of yourself to others that there's nothing left for you? Here's the thing. We're conditioned to believe that people are the key to our happiness. No man is an island, they say. You need a village. And while there's some truth to that, no one tells you about the cost of maintaining those connections. Think about it. How many times have you stayed in a relationship or friendship that wasn't good for you? How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no, just to keep the peace? I spent years doing this. I stayed in toxic friendships because I didn't want to be seen as mean or selfish. I let family members walk all over me because, well, they're family, right? And at work, I was the guy who always picked up the slack, even when it wasn't my responsibility. But here's what I've learned. Not everyone deserves a place in your life. Some people are like weeds in a garden. They take up space, steal nutrients, and stop you from blooming. Let's talk about those people. There's the taker, the person who always needs something from you, but is never there when you need them. You know the type. They call you when they're in trouble, but the moment things are fine, they disappear. Then there's the critic, the person who never has anything nice to say. No matter what you do, it's never good enough for them. And let's not forget the drama magnet, the one who always has a crisis and expects you to drop everything to fix it. Sound familiar? These people might not even realize they're doing it, but over time, their actions chip away at your peace, your confidence, and your sense of self. And the worst part? You let them. I know I did. For years, I let these people dictate how I felt about myself. I let their negativity seep into my life because I thought I had to. But let me tell you something, you don't. It wasn't easy to shift my mindset. I'm not going to lie to you and say I woke up one day and suddenly had it all figured out. It took time, it took reflection, and it took some really hard conversations with myself. The first thing I had to accept was this: not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Think of your life like a dinner party. You wouldn't invite someone who insults the food, makes a mess, or ruins the vibe, right? So, why do we let those people into our lives? I started looking at my relationships differently. Instead of focusing on what I could do for others, I started asking, how does this person make me feel? Do they inspire me or drain me? Do they support me or criticize me? Do they bring joy or chaos? If the answer was drain, criticize, or chaos, I started creating distance, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. And here's the surprising part: the more I let go of toxic people, the more room I had for the good ones, the kind ones, the ones who truly cared. I also learned something crucial. It's okay to be alone. Society makes us think that being alone is bad, that it means you're lonely or unwanted. But there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Alone is peaceful. Lonely is chaotic. When I started spending more time alone, I discovered things about myself I never knew. I realized I loved gardening. I started reading books I'd always put off. I found joy in the small, quiet moments that used to feel empty. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds great, but how do I actually do it? Here's the thing: understanding the problem is just the first step. The real work begins when you start applying those insights to your daily life. And trust me, I've been there. It's not easy, but it's worth it. So here's what worked for me, and maybe it'll work for you too. 1. Learn the art of pausing. Have you ever noticed how quickly we react to things? Someone says something rude and boom, you're already fuming. Here's a little trick. Practice the art of pausing. The next time someone pushes your buttons, take a deep breath and count to 3 before responding. Those 3 seconds might not seem like much, but they give you just enough time to decide how you want to react instead of letting your emotions take over. Think of it as a mental speed bump. It slows you down just enough to avoid an emotional crash. 2. Create a peace plan. Just like you'd plan a vacation or a project, plan for your peace. Ask yourself, what situations tend to drain me? Is it that coworker who loves to gossip? The family member who always brings up politics at dinner? Once you've identified these triggers, come up with a plan. For example, if you know you'll face negativity at work, schedule a 10-minute walk during lunch to clear your mind. If family gatherings get heated, decide in advance to steer the conversation toward lighter topics. Planning doesn't mean avoiding everything. It just means being prepared. 3. Set boundaries. Like a pro, boundaries are more than just saying no. They're about defining what's okay and what's not. How to do it. Be clear. Instead of saying, I don't like when you do that, say, I need you to stop saying this because it affects me. Stay consistent. Once you set a boundary, stick to it. If you let people cross it once, they'll think it's negotiable. Remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-respect. 4. Build a joy toolkit. Life will always have its stressful moments, but you can balance them by creating a toolkit of things that bring you joy. For me, it's simple. A playlist of my favorite songs, a journal to write down my thoughts, a go-to comedy show that always makes me laugh. Your toolkit can be anything: books, hobbies, nature walks. The idea is to have a go-to list of things that recharge you when life gets overwhelming. 5. Practice emotional detachment. This one's a game changer. Not everything requires an emotional reaction. Think of it this way. When someone's throwing negativity your way, imagine they're handing you a heavy bag. You have two choices. You can take it and carry it around all day, or you can simply let it drop to the ground. The next time someone tries to drag you into their drama, ask yourself, do I really want to carry this? Most of the time, the answer is no. 6. Focus on what you can control. Here's a hard truth. You can't control other people. You can't control what they say, do, or think. But you can control how you respond. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, let it go. There's no point in stressing over things you can't change. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you can't control their behavior, but you can control whether you let it ruin your day or simply shrug it off. 7. Surround yourself with positive energy. Take a moment to think about the people in your life. Who lifts you up? Who drains you? Make it a priority to spend more time with those who bring positivity into your life. And don't underestimate the power of finding like-minded communities. Whether it's a hobby group, a fitness class, or an online forum, connecting with positive people can be incredibly uplifting. 8. Embrace imperfection. One of the biggest sources of stress is the unrealistic expectation that we, and everyone around us, should be perfect. Guess what? No one is. When someone disappoints you, try to extend grace. And when you fall short, remind yourself that you're human. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. 9. Use visual reminders. Let's face it, we all get caught up in the chaos of daily life and forget the advice we swore we'd follow. That's where visual reminders come in. Write down a phrase or mantra that resonates with you, something like, protect your peace, or not mine to carry. Place it where you'll see it often, on your desk, your bathroom mirror, or even as your phone wallpaper. These little reminders act as a reset button, pulling you back to your intentions whenever life starts to pull you away. 10. Be kind to yourself. Finally, remember this. You're doing the best you can. Life is messy, people are complicated, and no one has it all figured out. Be gentle with yourself. When you catch yourself spiraling into negativity, pause and say, I'm allowed to feel this, but I don't have to stay here. At 75, I can honestly say I'm happier now than I've ever been. Not because my life is perfect, but because I've learned to protect my energy, my time, and my heart. And you can do the same. You don't have to wait until you're 75 to figure this out. Start now. Look at your relationships. Look at how you spend your time. And ask yourself, is this helping me or hurting me? Because here's the truth. Life is too short to spend it with people who don't value you. You deserve better. You deserve peace. So take a deep breath, let go of the guilt, and start choosing yourself. And if this message resonates with you, let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's build a community of people who choose peace over chaos. If this video helped you see things differently, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because we all deserve a life filled with peace, joy, and the kind of love that lifts us up, not tears us down.